Hello everyone, I hope you're all well. In English, our next unit is going to be all about poetry. We will be looking in particular about narrative poetry. Today, we are going to be learning how to use intonation and volume, words that you may not be familiar with, but if you are, fantastic, to recite, so retell, a narrative poem out loud. First of all though, we need to understand what we mean by a narrative poem. So I want you to have a think, what does the word narrative mean? You might have heard it before when we've been doing different genres of English, but I always have a think what narrative means. Narrative is a piece of events that are connected, a bit like a story, and they can be spoken or written events, but they are connected, so they link together, okay? Now we know what the word narrative means. What do you think a narrative poem is? Tell the screen. Wow, yeah, a narrative poem is a type of poem that tells a story. Now, narrative poems tend to be quite long, but they tell a story like they do in a novel or a book, like books we read in school and at home. And they also use things such as rhythm and rhyme, like in a poem too. Don't worry too much if you don't know what rhythm and rhyme are, because we'll be learning that soon. But as long as you remember that a narrative poem is a type of poem that tells a story, that's the most important thing for now. I want you in a moment to pause the video and have a look at this plate. This plate is called a willow pattern plate. It's about a poem and it tells a story. I wonder if you can spot anything particular about this plate. Can you see any characters or any objects? What can you see on the plate? Do you notice anything about the pattern? And what might be happening? Can you try and predict what the story might be? Can you please pause the video? You might want to write your thoughts down, or just say it with someone who's sat next to you, or even just think it in your heads. Can you pause the video now and answer those questions, please? Off you go. Okay, so I would like you to start telling me things that you've found about this plate. What can you see? What characters are there? Is there anything that interests you? Have a bit of a chat. I know I sadly can't hear you, but I know you've all got fantastic ideas, so I'd love to hear them. So, what I've spotted, first of all, is that there's something here. It's a building. It looks a bit like a temple. I can also, if you look really, really closely, you can see two people outside, and it actually looks like they're praying. So they could be outside quite a significant, quite an important place, maybe a place of worship. Just remember though, year 4, it's all about inference. You're making guesses, estimates, what you think is happening. There's no right or wrong answer. It's purely down to your own opinion, because I might not be right either. Down the bottom here, I can see there's a fence and it's kind of gated off, stopping these two people from getting out. That's what it looks like. That's what I'm inferring from this plate. I wonder if you've seen the same thing as me, as a child, or maybe it could be a mother and a baby. I wonder what's happened to those two people. Are they in danger? Who knows? I can see someone here holding their hands up. Now, when someone holds their hands up, both of them, it's almost like they're surrendering. They need help. Maybe they do need help, but what do they need help? Why do they need help? If we look over this way, we can see a tower. Now, either this tower is leaning, or you have to turn the plate sideways to see that it's not leaning. It looks a bit like Big Ben. But then again, we don't know what country this is all set in. So it could be Big Ben, or it could be just a normal tower. I can also see a boat here. It looks like some people are trying to escape from somewhere. But where are they trying to escape from? Where are they going to? I can see lots of other things, but two things that are quite large in this picture, in this plate, are two birds. What type of birds are they? And what's their purpose? Are they helping someone? Are they being an enemy to someone? Are they going to turn someone into something? What is going on? Now, I don't know about you, year 4, but I've got lots of questions about this plate, these pictures so far. But I just want you to turn your attention to the poem that actually fits alongside this plate. This is an example of a narrative poem, and this tells you about the story. So I'm going to read this poem to you. I want you to think about my voice, and I want you to also think about what is the story? What is the message behind this story? And I'm going to have some of your suggestions in a moment, all right? Look, on my plate is a blue garden. It happened in China a long time ago. There, On a bridge, the soldiers are running to capture the princess, the emperor's daughter. She left with the young man she wanted to marry. They fled to an island that lay on the lake. The emperor was angry. He ordered his soldiers to capture the princess and kill the young man. But the man and the princess were turned into bluebirds. They flew from the island and never returned. The emperor, in sadness, turned into a willow, and always he droops as he weeps in his sorrow. He weeps on my plate in a blue garden. It happened in China a long time ago. I want you to think about when we've read lots and lots of stories. We know the structure of a story by now. But what makes this a poem and not a story? Because it actually does tell a story. But why isn't it a story year 4? Can you tell the screen an idea that you have, please? I've noticed that too. The structure. In a story, we know that we read from left to right. And we start a new line when we need to start a new line. In a poem, they do the same thing, but actually, they don't write across the whole of the line. They actually start a new line when they feel they want to. Now, they don't call them paragraphs, they call them something like a stanza. A stanza is a bit like a paragraph, but it's actually like a verse. So it's like a section of the poem. And in this poem, we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stanzas. Okay, so that's what makes it a bit like a poem and not a story. My second question is, what features does this piece of writing have that make this a poem? Now, some of you might have noticed that this poem has some rhythm. The way I was saying it, I was starting a new line and I was actually pausing at the end of this line before continuing on to the next one, even though in a story, it would just continue on the same line and I would keep on reading. So that's what makes it a bit like a poem, because it has rhythm. The way that I say the words isn't just like I'm reading them normally. Did you like the poem? Give me a nod or a shake. And if not, why not? And if you did, why did you? And did it create a picture or a story in your mind? I know that for me, it definitely did create a picture and a story, because this is what I was imagining. I was imagining the princess wanting to get married to the young man, but the emperor, the princess's father, didn't want her to. So he ordered the soldiers to get rid of him. Now, is that fair? Is that right? What do you think, year 4? No, I don't think so either. I think the emperor could have handled it a lot differently, and I think you probably agree with me there. But what happened? The man and the princess were turned into bluebirds, and that is where the birds in our plate came from, because they were turned into bluebirds, and that is why the plate is blue. Because it's a blue garden, they turned into bluebirds, and it's all starting suddenly to make sense, and hopefully you've got that light bulb moment in your head too, like I have. Now the emperor started crying because his daughter was gone. She'd gone away and she'd probably never come back again. But then again, some of you might think, oh, maybe it is the emperor's fault because he did try and do something bad to the husband, the person that his daughter wanted to marry. And that's wrong too. Because some of you might have different views on that one, but that's definitely created a picture in my mind. And that's definitely made me feel a bit sad, but also happy that the princess and the man got away safely. Okay, you might want to pause the video, have a bit more discussion, and that's absolutely fine, so feel free to do that if you want to. But for now, we will move on. So, in a moment, I'm going to show you a video of somebody reading that poem, but actually they're going to do a performance by showing you the willow plate in the performance too. I want you to think of 2 questions when you are listening and watching this performance. I firstly want you to think, does this performance make the poem clear? And what did you think about the intonation and volume? Now, if you're unclear on what intonation or volume is, intonation is where you're changing the pitch, and pitch means how high or how low you are speaking, and the speed, so how fast or how slow you are speaking. And the intonation is really important. It focuses attention on important words that you want the reader to really be emphasised. when they're reading. It also shows attitudes and emotions. Now, volume is changing how loud or how quiet you are. So sometimes I might be a little bit quiet when I'm speaking, or sometimes I might be louder. And that really keeps the attention of the person who's listening. If I spoke to you at the same tone throughout the whole lesson, I'm pretty sure you'd be quite bored. However, this builds suspense and creates surprises for the reader. I'm going to click onto the video now, and I want you to think of all of those things when you are reading the video, please.
Willow Pattern by Tony Mitten. Look, on my plate is a blue garden. It happened in China a long time ago. There, on a bridge, the soldiers are running to capture the princess, the emperor's daughter. She left with a young man she wanted to marry. They fled to an island that lay on a lake. The emperor was angry. He ordered his soldiers to capture the princess and kill the young man. But the man and the princess were turned into bluebirds. They flew from the island and never returned. The emperor, in sadness, turned into a willow, and always he droops as he weeps in his sorrow. He weeps on my plate in a blue garden. It happened in China a long time ago.
Okay, guys, so if I just get you back on the PowerPoint. So, do you think the performance is clear? And if so, why? And if not, why not? Can you just have a minute to think about that, please? You might want to pause the video again and then have a think and let me know. Okay, guys, so I think you're right. The performance is very clear because the performer has got a camera, obviously, and he is going around the plate in a very controlled motion. He's going to each image as he tells a story. And that, for me, puts a very good image in my head of what actually is going on in the story. So that makes the poem really clear for me. What did you think about the intonation and volume then, Year 4? I think the intonation, so let's just remind ourselves, the pitch and the speed was great because sometimes he would speak slower. We know at the end he said, "It happened in China," and he paused a long time ago. He was speaking slower and actually quieter as well, which relates to volume. And that really helped you understand that that is not only coming to the end of the narrative poem, but also creating that suspense because we don't actually know what happened next, okay? Now, your task today, you have got your resources in front of you. Hopefully, you've got a picture of the willow plate. You've also got an example of the poem. What I would like you to do is focus on learning how to use intonation and volume to be able to practice the poem, okay? I would like you to start off with one stanza at a time, so one verse, practice that verse, choose words that might be louder or quieter, or faster or slower, or higher or lower than others, okay? And choose them carefully. Choose words you want to emphasize to your reader. Really, really focus on that today, Year 4. You've got 20 minutes to be practicing all of the narrative poem, using that intonation and volume. Make it varied, make it interesting to the reader, because then I would like you to record yourself, and then what I would like you to do is send it into the office, who will then send it to me, and then I am really looking forward to seeing all your lovely narrative poetry recites, okay? Have a lovely, lovely afternoon. I'm really excited to see these, and I will see you in our next lesson, Year 4. See you later.